I'm Eva O, and this is the Teakink podcast. I've been a dominatrix since 2011, and I would like to spill the tea on my life. Thank you for listening.
Educator, mentor, influencer. Terms that I am not entirely comfortable with, but that have been used upon me. Educator. Let's start there, shall we? Educator seems to mean somebody that speaks about a topic on a repeated basis on social media. And I don't know whether that seems valid enough for me to align with the word education. I don't know. I don't know about this. I kind of see myself more as a resource and as a lived experience that is sharing a perspective. I don't know whether I would classify that as education or whether you should take that on as education rather than just hearing me out. Mentoring, I'm a little bit more comfortable with because I have engaged with mentors in the past and they haven't necessarily had like a formal process of education in order to educate. It's more been a lived experience that you're drawing from, which is why I feel comfortable having my mentor calls or consulting calls, as I also call them. And influencer. To be frank, I play the influencer game on the social media, and I am very interested in some of the connections that it has been able to build for me, but I'm also partially disgusted by it. I would say that the game kind of nature that the algorithm demands of you is quite... It's hungry in a way that doesn't sit with the way that I move in the world. And it's desperate in the way that I am very turned off by. But sadly, in order to remain present in a public discourse, you need to be on these channels. And in order to stay and remain on these channels, you have to play this disgusting game. I can play disgusting games. Who knew? Instagram's just like one big, long session. But the mentoring side of it, okay, getting more comfortable with it. I've been in the business for 13 years. I was consulting before that. I've been working professionally across so many industries for a long time, including a lot of things that are relevant to my industry. So things like branding, things like marketing, things like communications, things like running a small business, things like understanding the motivations of others and how to address them. So I think that I have enough experience in order to be able to transmit that, and I'm happy to do that through my mentor calls, which if you're interested, you can do via my website and also the link tree, yada, yada. But there's been some interesting feedback actually about the mentor calls. Let's go into the positive stuff first, right? So the people who actually do the calls have been fascinating. It's been amazing. It's been people who are both working and also just in the community, just lifestylers, and a mixture of the both. And even some people like totally out, like nothing to do with the kink scene at all, nothing to do with the sex scene at all. And they're just like running venture capital funds and they just want to understand how to express themselves like I managed to, and so it's been an incredible group of people who have been booking these calls. And it's just really lovely for me to see what my influencing is touching. And also for me to see what people are up to in all of these corners of the world. I usually leave my booking windows pretty open. I mean, they book up crazy fast, but I usually leave them for about 12 hours. So therefore people can book from everywhere. And I get to see how people are thinking about their work and how different markets are. And it's very interesting for me. And also, it's really interesting for me to see how clued in people are, because I was not very clued in when I first started. And some of these people who are just thinking about getting into the business or who have just been in it for a year, I'm like, whoa, you had the thought to reach out to like somebody who's had experience. And I guess I walked into a dungeon, and that was kind of my way of doing it. But this was like so pointed and like so assertive, and I love it. And I hear that some people are very intimidated to talk to me. I'm not really sure why. Is that a stupid question? It feels like it might be in some ways. But I'm very approachable and understanding. I think in some ways, I'm maybe one of the most understanding people that I know, aside from my mother. Approachable, okay, yeah, sure. There's like a tone of voice and like an image that maybe looks intimidating, but like just forget that shit. You know, it's like, don't believe a facade and look deeper into the person who actually wants to be there for you, I guess, you know. And I have my boundaries. It's not like I'm just going to let anybody call me any time of day. This is behind a paywall, yeah? And I'm understanding that my time and my knowledge is worth a value. But but I'm here to be available. I'm public to be available. I'm public to be a resource, I guess is what I'm saying. But yeah, it's been so touching and so interesting and so really heartwarming to know that people are connected and connecting and interested in their own experience and how to better that. And I'm loving the calls, like so much more than I thought I would. I've learned how to limit it so that I don't get overwhelmed, which is good. I used to be more available. Now I limit that a bit so I have more energy for myself and to give to people too. But I think it's been going really well, and I'm very happy with it. And it's been a really nice supplementary income also that I can just do from my sofa. I don't get paid anything for the podcast, but you know, at least it's also from my sofa. But the feedback, that's not so good. Well, I mean, it's all secondhand feedback because unfortunately, like people need to tell me if they have issues with the things I'm up to. Otherwise, I can't take your perspective into account and I can't shift, you know? So if you're just complaining for complaining's sake, then fine, cool. You do your thing and I don't need to have anything to do with it. And please entertain yourself. But like, if you really think that I'm doing something horrendously wrong and that it would be better for me to shift it in a certain way, or, you know, like, just message me, just like tell me, just like, for example, the other day, like I haven't done the episode on it yet, but I think it must have been my first episode. And my friend Isabella Sinclaire messaged me and said, I find it a little problematic that you mention the erotic when it comes to work, because I try to avoid that language. And I totally get it, because Isabella works in America where sex work is illegal for the most part, right? And so being very careful around that is necessary for your existence. And I came from a decriminalized place. Like I started in an environment where sex work was decriminalized. And so I have a different framework that I'm working from, right? And now I'm working in a legalized framework that is definitely not as authoritarian as it can be in America. And so I am given more freedoms, and I understood that I need to be careful around my language, around how I communicate to an international audience. and that was really useful and really great for me. And I mean, it was so easy to just message me. But anyway, so these mentor calls, I feel like they're going really well. Like, I guess also this, like the complaining that happens sometimes. And I totally get, this concept of gatekeeping around volatile environments that need to be protected. Totally makes sense. There needs to be information that is kept just for certain communities in order to protect ourselves. Really get it. But like, I'm thinking about where those lines are all the time. And I just wish that people would speak up if they really think that I'm crossing these lines more often. Because that's really helpful to me and therefore everyone who I'm speaking to, right? But I guess it reminds me also of, I was doing this internship at a sex worker organization after my social work qualification. And the manager got really like tipsy on holiday, or we managed to cross paths on holiday at one point. And she said something like, everybody's like complaining so much. It's like so stressful. But, when people who don't have any power are given a little bit, like sex workers are given a little bit of authority, sometimes they just smash it out of the park and like fuck around with it and just go for it. Just try to take the power. And so I guess like some of this like opinions and like rustling of feathers also comes from that. And I think that it's been a very helpful thing for me to remember. And that was a great tipsy moment from my manager. But yeah, the educator thing, I don't know. I guess maybe I need to catch up with the language that happens now in public discourse. Maybe I'm a little just slow to take that one up. People are always asking me to do courses. I don't know about this. I mean, I have a website, youwillpleaseme.com, that does like more fantasy-based courses for submissives where I talk about how to worship my feet and like how I like you to look at my photos and things like this and how to buy me a gift. But I don't have anything for people who want to be more like me, which seems to be what people are interested in. Although like those aspects of what that person is, I need to maybe do a little bit more research about what you think I am. And then figure out how to create something to help you feel aligned with that. Actually, I had a call today with somebody who wanted to be able to, what was their exact wording? Basically embody who like aspects of me within themselves. And this is going to be a different feedback for each person, but I basically asked them what they saw in me and where they were and what they would hope for. And what ended up coming out was my story of how I got to this entity that you are experiencing right now. And my experience, I guess, within that has been that I've been observant. I've been watchful. I haven't put myself like too much at the forefront, but enough so that I can be challenged and keep moving. And slowly that's taught me about who I was and where I am in the world. And I think sex work has also kind of amplified that because you're kind of forced to stand up for yourself. But I think that what kind of came out through that particular consultation was that these are the steps of my journey. And I think it's just about living it and starting to understand how much of that is within you and surrounding yourself with things that are going to feed that and support that and nurture that and giving yourself time to digest it all. And I think that this repetitive process of mine has helped me be more and more comfortable in myself, because this is what that particular person was talking about, how I'm like comfortable inside of myself. And I think that this takes time and experience and positive nurturing and feedback from others and within yourself. And I guess that could be formulated into something. But again, I just feel like some random person who happens to have chosen like some interesting things and is able to talk for hours at a time into a camera, it seems. And so I am able to communicate it to you and you hear it, and that just elevates me in some weird, distorted way. And I don't think that gives me a right to educate, but I'm happy to be a resource. And so maybe, should I do a course? I don't know. You tell me. What would you like the course to be on? Or do you just want to hear me talk? Like so many of you seem to enjoy, which is great. Maybe I could just do one episode where it's complete gibberish and I'm just talking and see whether as many of you listen to it as you do every week. So, thank you for listening, and I'll speak with you next time.